Right, hello and welcome to the next episode of the Farmer's Guide podcast. Today we want to talk a little bit about the recent dealer closures and the amount of auctions and farm sales that have been happening within the industry. Now, Daniel and I have been to several auctions for a well-known dealer over the last month or so, and Daniel has got hold of some documents.
The Notice of Administrators' Proposals, yeah.
And it makes for very interesting reading. So while there are some absolute bargains to be had if you're looking to buy some used or even new machinery from auction, it does beg the question, where's that money go? And these bargains, who's losing out? So, Daniel, I think you've got some ideas there and some thoughts.
Yeah, so this is first of all, just straight off the bat, this is a publicly available document that if you're interested yourself, you can find it on Companies House. And basically it kind of details its PwC's actions up to and during the administration process. But what it really does, which is I think is quite interesting, is it kind of gives a bit of context and background to how did Rea Valley Tractors end up in the situation that they found themselves in. And kind of as a overview timeline, just leading up to the closure, obviously early 2025, the agricultural machinery market was not looking incredible. There wasn't a huge turnover of stock, and reduced capital expenditure was something that was kind of seen across the board. So stock wasn't moving, money wasn't changing hands. Obviously, that's not great for dealers.
No.
They don't want stock sitting in their yards. And at the beginning of the year as well, Rea Valley Tractors had accrued a pretty substantial debt to HMRC. We're talking in the region of £3 million.
You certainly don't want to be owing HMRC any money,
no.
let alone £3 million.
Yeah. So it was a huge amount of money, and that was something that they had built up an agreement with HMRC to develop a payment plan in return to schedule the payments. But alongside this, they had significant creditor pressures. So they had loans to banks, they had money that they owed to suppliers, there was debts that were just building up throughout the year. And we make our way into summer, early July, and things haven't improved much from the financial point of view. And it looks like from the document, in a very unexpected kind of sudden move, the financial director resigns. And as far as the document puts it, gave no handover whatsoever. So all of a sudden the company is significantly in debt to creditors, banks, HMRC, and the financial director is gone. And nobody really knows, I think, in that situation what's happening.
Was there a turning point, do you think, that obviously one morning, driving into work, thinking, I'm a bit in over my head right now.
Yeah.
At some point, someone's got to make that decision.
Yeah.
When he obviously made, or she made the decision to leave. So,
there must have been. Yeah, I can't imagine what it would have been like. I picture them lying in bed at night, staring at the ceiling, thinking, what do we do now? Yeah. One of the big problems that Rea Valley Tractors had was they had such a huge amount of stock. We're talking in the region, it's still being sort of tallied up, but it's a wide region, but 15 to 25 million pounds of stock. They didn't own it all. A lot of that was financed. Again, the proportions of that aren't clear yet, but essentially they had a lot of outgoings. You know, they were paying a lot to hold on to this stock, and it wasn't moving, and they weren't able to make the payments on that. So they had some real cash flow issues, and it was when the banks got involved. So Barclay basically, I think, kind of said, look, we need to do a cash flow assessment. That's when they brought in PwC to work out what was going on, and that was in either late July or early August. And that initial kind of assessment said, you don't have enough money to make your HMRC bills that are coming up this month. Like, it's critical now. Like, you have to do something now. So it was in August that then they agreed to do what's called an AMA, which is an accelerated merger or acquisition. They were looking to sell the company and I guess sell the debts with it. And that was that was opened to potential buyers for, I think, just over a month or so. And they had interest, but nobody in the end actually followed through either they didn't have the cash available or dropped out last minute.
Yeah, I think 14 people signed a non-disclosure.
Yeah.
But I think there's one sort of suggested offer, but actually that nothing happened.
Yeah.
And I noticed here they then filed for NOI, for, notice of intent, for a second time, at which point they spent nearly £1 million on administration fees.
So, as we were saying earlier, there's a lot of people losing out in this.
Yeah.
There is a lot of money owed to a lot of people, and what the report does kind of, I think, make fairly clear is that people shouldn't be expecting close to what they're owed, basically. No. It's going to be substantially less than what they might be expecting or what they might want.
Yeah, well, I think it's worth mentioning, talking about getting your monies back. When we went to the Rea Valley site a month ago, we noticed there's quite a lot of people hovering around, and you described them, if I can say it, as a bit vulture-ish.
Yeah.
And basically, you've got companies there who own stock, which is on site with Rea Valley, and they're just basically sifting through to prove what is theirs and using serial numbers to identify that they own that stock to try and get their money back. Because if you've got secured or money for products, you can potentially get that back.
Yeah.
But money for services, and we're on there, and admittedly a very small amount. Although I will add, it's wrong. We are owed more than on the document, but still insignificant compared to some. I think it's unlikely we will see much of it, if any, back.
You mentioning that the numbers wrong, that's something that also came through in the report, was the poor record keeping that had been going on there. So if we kind of circle back to why Rea Valley, what's happening? Because obviously the market as a whole is struggling, so all the dealers are struggling. So why did Rea Valley Tractors shut down and not all the other dealers? There's pretty strong evidence of really poor record keeping. So that's something that PwC have spent a lot of time doing, is following up on lots of missed invoices and things that just haven't been noted down and recorded. You noticing that the amount that is supposed to be that we're owed being less than we're actually owed is an example of that, right? That there was that lack of due diligence, lack of care perhaps in what they were doing, and obviously this huge amount of finance stock that they had that was just costing them a huge amount of money. I think so. Yeah, so PwC had the notice of intent that ran until early September.
Yeah.
At which point, I think it was on the 8th of September they concluded no buyers. It's not going to happen. And on the 10th of September they went into full administration, and there was, talk about the human impact of this.
Well, I've seen the numbers there.
Yeah,
it's pretty heartbreaking for a lot of people, I'm sure.
Yeah, 146 staff. They kept on 12 at the beginning, and then another 6 were made redundant. So I think as it stands, they've got 6 staff on. And in fact, we met some of them when we visited the site, and they're there, I think, helping to move stock around at the moment. But yeah, a huge human cost. That's a lot of people put out of work all of a sudden. And unfortunately, again, doesn't look like necessarily that they're going to get their full payout, let's say.
No. That's a lot of people to be made redundant in a very sort of niche industry where, like you said at the beginning, times are tough. We are not seeing, there aren't many dealers that are doing fantastically well. They're all doing either as good as they did last year, if not worse.
Yeah.
So it's unlikely they're going to be looking to appoint another 100x people, where we've got a situation where they might be only qualified or trained within agricultural machinery, if they're engineers or service fitters or salespeople.
Yeah, it is a specialised niche role that, as we're seeing, there's the fact that a dealer like that has closed down shows that it's a struggling market.
Yeah.
I think it's very sad for the people involved, but it's, as you're saying, it's a big mess that gets left behind when something like this happens. There's a mess on the financial side and the business side, like tying everything up and trying to kind of close it all off in a legal and fair way. But yeah, the human cost, I think, is hard to kind of, I wouldn't want to think what those families are going through. No. And to be fair, we saw a couple of the staff there when we were walking around doing the video for
for Gordon's. And we spoke to a couple of the people there, and it's quite heartwarming and heart jerking. Sorry, tear jerking.
Yeah. It was.
They're working and been kept on, but for how long?
They don't know how long. No,
and
they don't.
What does the next chapter of their life look like?
And they're in the shell of what used to be their livelihood as well. I think it would have been, quite difficult.
I remember walking through the yard with you, and go through the office there, and there's a lot of people there who would, a few months ago, been really excited. It's the weekend, go for dinner tonight, go to a party, doing all sorts of things. And now it's just this heart, this broken shell of a business.
Yeah. And obviously they had 7 premises as well, so it was a wide-reaching network. I think, as it stands, 5 of them have been released, and they're still. So PwC, the administrators, are still using 2 of the sites.
Yeah,
that's where they're storing and securing the equipment. Because that's obviously another thing, is that the moment that the administration is announced, there is a rush, like a mad rush, to make sure you can consolidate everything and bring it together, because things disappear.
Well, that's very interesting to say that, because obviously we did 3 auctions on behalf of Rea Valley stock. One was at Rea Valley, one was in Yorkshire, nowhere near any of their dealers.
Nope.
Another one was in South Essex.
Yeah.
And it flagged up to us very quickly how many people have stock or have interest in this money, and quickly get that kit away and sold.
Yeah, and talking about the number of people, so one of the processes that occurs during the administration process is people are allowed to apply or claim a retention of title.
Yeah.
So it's basically a supplier or someone saying that piece of kit that Rea Valley had is actually ours.
Yeah.
They never paid for it. So, but you have to be able to prove that. They had 24 different entities making these retention of title claims, which is, I think, quite a substantial amount, because they have to be gone through in quite a lot of detail to verify whether they are.
It's got to be right or wrong.
Yeah. And that obviously then affects, that adds time, that delays the process, which is a painful part of it. This is something that will be ongoing for a long time. It adds administrative burden to the cost that PwC will claim from this, like that it will be a big bill from PwC for sorting all of this out, which at the end of the day affects how much money that the people who are owed get, whether that's the banks, suppliers, or the workers.
Well, talking about money, Barclays are owed 5.1 million.
Yeah.
Close Brothers, 286,000, and DLL, who we did an auction for a couple of weeks ago, £0.8 million. And I can tell you now, there wasn't £7.8 million worth of stock up at auction.
No.
A couple hundred grand, probably at best.
Yeah, and
so where's this money going to go? So when they collect all the money, and I think on the report it says they had money in the bank, but obviously Barclays are taking that.
It wasn't a lot. It was about £2,000.
£2,000 for a company that turns over what it turns over.
Yeah.
That is, that's not a lot.
No, and so now the situation is well, PwC, they kind of get all of they through their administration process try to recover as much value from the assets as they can.
Yeah.
But they take their cut, and it's a substantial cut.
Do we know how much?
It varies depending on what it is, but it looks like more than half. Let's say normally, we're talking pretty high cut that it can go up to 75%.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I noticed in one of the auctions as well, they were charging the sale price was on top of that was 18% fee. So obviously that reduces the actual sale price.
Yeah.
So you've got a product worth X amount.
Yeah.
That's sold. 18% of that goes straight to the auctioneer. So you're already at quite a low amount. Then PwC are taking their fee, which is potentially over half. There's not an awful lot left for everybody else.
No, there's not. These are big numbers that we're talking about, but big numbers are owed. Big numbers are owed. It doesn't really matter that, this is obviously what part of what PwC do, but it is, from the outside, from my perspective as someone who's not super familiar with this world, it's it feels salt in the wound for something that is already a very difficult, challenging, messy thing. For someone to come in and essentially make a lot of money out of it is quite galling.
Well, it is. It's awful, because I think, going back to the human aspect, there will be people who worked for Rea Valley for decades and given their lives to it for, in comparison, a very small figure, and might not even get their full entitled redundancy. And you've got people like PwC coming in and other people, not just them, but taking awful amounts of money.
And we don't mean to bash PwC.
No,
because this is it's an important legal process that they're going through. It's just from a bystander point of view, it looks wrong to a degree. It feels uncomfortable, I think, is a fair statement, just to see the sums of money that are made out of something really bad happening to a lot of people.
And I think overall it's awful for the industry. And hopefully there aren't many other, if any, dealers following. But I mean, for me as a director, I was looking at this thinking, how can I make sure my business doesn't end up in this situation? And when we first visited that Rea Valley, I felt that sense of sadness driving home, thinking, I will not let my company be like this. But actually reading this gave me a little bit of comfort.
We're a long way away from what they were doing.
I mean, this is pretty, worrying numbers that some people braver than I to get some sleep, I don't like owing anybody any money, and we always make sure we trade safely and enough to make sure staff are looked after and everything. Very, very seriously. We are, however, substantially smaller, so it is a lot easier. But it is worrying, and there are rumours of other businesses that are not looking as profitable as they have done in the past, and they probably trade day to day. They sell that machine that then pays for one of their bills.
It's as people are aware, it's been a very challenging time for the market, generally speaking. And I think this is a real kind of alarm bell for a lot of people to realise that maybe some of the practices that became commonplace and just kind of standard, easy, not worrying too much about financing, for example, just kind of brushing it off it was fine, we'll pay it off. Suddenly things can change, and very quickly you can find yourself in a situation that you can't get out of. So I think there's valuable lessons for other dealers, I'm sure, in what's happened to Rea Valley. I think it's, as you say, though, it's indicative of the times, and I think it's not unlikely that we'll see other closures. And then that begs the question, from the farmer's point of view, do they need to be worried about dealership coverage for their kit? Because a few closures here and there can suddenly open up a bit of a vacuum. So obviously Rea Valley were New Holland, and there are other dealers now who stepped in, and New Holland have kind of ensured that there is good coverage in the area, or at least they say they have. But that's this time. If there are other closures, is that something that's going to be able to keep happening? Downtime for a farmer is just not okay. It costs far too much. It can be the difference between making a massive loss one year versus barely scraping a profit.
I mean, to answer the question, when you go out to look at Agritechnica, and you've got launches from every brand pretty much. Would that mean in the future that the farmer in a certain geographical location, doesn't matter if John Deere has launched this fantastic tractor, or New Holland, or any other brand, it's all irrelevant because I can't get hold of one?
I think
there's no dealer nearby.
I think dealership coverage and the relationship that a customer has with a dealership is one of, if not the biggest factors in machinery purchases. None of these pieces of kit are cheap. They're all really expensive, and they have to do really hard work and do a really good job. And it's a time-critical job most of the time. So you have to know that when you buy this piece of kit, that you are supported. That if something does go wrong, and inevitably it will, that it comes there and then the support, and you're back on your feet as fast as possible. Because otherwise it costs too much. They can't afford it. So I think it will... Yeah, I mean, yeah, the dealership coverage and dealership network and the support that provides is, like I say, probably one of, if not the biggest drivers in machinery purchases. So it's really, I imagine the manufacturers even are probably starting to see stuff like this and start to get worried, because it affects them, obviously. You know, they need their good dealers to give that coverage so they can sell their machines.
But in the car world, there wasn't a time where a lot of manufacturers, or some manufacturers, owned their own dealerships so that they could control, rather than leave it in the hands of whoever and potentially make mistakes. If they own their own dealerships, they can ensure that they are covering that area and they have the full control of it. I'm not sure if that still goes on now, whether that's still viable, but perhaps, you know, that is the future of manufacturers.
Yeah, I think it's obviously within agriculture, you've got quite established relationships with dealerships and farmers. Often multiple family generations have come through, and it's very much trust based, because you need, like, that whole thing around that support is trusting that you have that support. It's not to say that manufacturers couldn't build that with their own dealerships. You know?
I was thinking if the dealerships go, because obviously around here, there are a number of dealerships. You've got Tuckwell's, Durlow Nunn, you've got Ben Burgess, Ernest Doe. These are all, as far as I'm aware, family businesses that runs throughout the relationships with the dealers and the customers, that they have often dealt with that person. And, you know, that's a really valuable thing. And I think the industry really appreciates family-run businesses. Of which we are as well.
Good plug. And I think that's very true. And maybe this is also a bit of a sign of that, because the dealers, as they are, you know, the current trend outside of what we've just seen here is consolidation and growth. So smaller dealers are being absorbed into bigger ones, and they are becoming bigger entities. They are, and I think that's part of what, you know, shot Rea Valley down, is they had really aggressive growth. They tried to, like, expand and grow and strip, you know, that's why they had so much finance against them, because they were just pushing to grow and grow and grow. And inevitably, as with anything, as you know, consolidate and enlarge a company, and you become inevitably more corporate, effectively, you lose that closeness that you have with the customer. There are greater degrees of separation between the people running the business and the people you're dealing with. And that's something that farmers care about. They want to know who they're dealing with. They want to trust them. And I think that would add to buyer caution if you don't know who you're dealing with, and could be a factor in, you know, the reduced expenditure that we're seeing just generally across the board. I think there is still very much space in the industry for smaller family-run businesses that people trust and know locally in the area. And I think Rea Valley, one of the things that, you know, contribute to their downfall was this aggressive expansion to become this big entity, rather than, you know, old Bob down the street who you've known since you've grown up, and you know you can call him at 2:00 in the morning because, you know, harvest has broken down, kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess it's a sign of the times. When things are going really, really well, fantastic. But when things get harder, it shows the weaker dealers. I think Rea Valley has become one of those.
And I think the important thing that I got from this is that it wasn't one catastrophic event that occurred that led to this. It was, although it did, you know, in the grand scheme of things, happen quite rapidly, it was a combination of factors, including the market, which is really, in a lot of ways, out of people's control. It's the market. But it was a series over a long period of time of decisions that led to a turning point where suddenly the company became unviable and couldn't continue. And I think that element of it is quite insidious. You don't see it coming. It's something, you know, you don't plan for that. You don't think, oh, this is what we're going for. That's something they didn't anticipate happening. But so I think it serves as, hopefully, as well as a good wake-up call to some of the other, probably larger dealers, as to, like, oh, that can happen, you know, that and it might sneak up on you before you realise.
Well, hopefully, we're not going to start any rumours, but hopefully we're going to see some dealers taking note of this
Yeah.
and thinking, right, we can't get ourselves in the same situation.
Mm-hmm.
What can we do now proactively to ensure we don't end up as a report? And I hope we never have the situation where we're talking about this podcast or talking on a podcast
Yeah.
about the demise of another dealer.
Yeah, and more auction visits.
Yeah, as fun as they were,
Yeah.
ultimately they're not good to be doing. We don't want to be doing them.
No. It's, we try to put a positive spin on them in a way that we can, in that it's an opportunity for farmers to get their hands on some good gear at a good price, but it's sad at the end of the day.
It's awful.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't see any business
No.
in that situation. So, brilliant. Well, thanks very much. Thank you for watching, and we will see you at the next podcast.
Thank you.